Welcome back to the channel for another daily race lap guide. This is your go-to series where I break down corner by corner one of the fastest times from one of the fastest drivers on the global leaderboard so you don't have to. It's Monday, which means we have a new set of daily races to get stuck into, and for this week's daily race C, we are heading to Watkins Glen in the US of A. It's a relief that after dealing with the chicane of death in last week's daily race C, that the very next race we get given does not have a similar corner creating all sorts of carnage. Join me as I take us through all the essential information you need to know, along with some tips to help you start as high up the grid as possible. If you're planning on competing this week, stay tuned. You do not want to miss this. Let's dive straight in. We'll start with the race information. Here we have 11 laps, 16 cars in the race with a rolling start, fuel consumption rate is set to ×2, tyre wear rate is set to ×5. The regulations are we have 2 usable dry tyres, the Racing Hard and Racing Soft. The intermediate and wet tyres are also available. There is a required tyre type for this race, which are the Racing Hard and Racing Soft. Car category is Group 3. Wide body, nitros or overtake are prohibited. Under car restrictions, we have BOP is set to mid-speed. Car settings, adjustable brake balance only. For race settings, DR and SR are both affected. There is light mechanical damage. Minimum number of pit stops is set to none, but we do still need to make a pit stop to change tyre compound during the race. Track limits are set to normal. And finally, penalty settings. Shortcut penalty is set to weak. There is no wall collision penalty. Colliding with other cars is penalised, and cutting the pit lane line on entry or exit attracts a penalty. Today's lap we are going to be looking at is, at the time of this recording, the top time on the global leaderboard of a 1 minute 42.784, completed in the BMW M6 GT3 Sprint Model 2016 on Racing Soft tyres. Stick around after the guide for a real-time commentary-free replay of the lap from both the bumper and bonnet cameras, and a shout out to Super 7 Sayer, I hope I've said that right, for the lap we're going to be looking through. Chapter markers are in the description for you to skip around to the parts that you're interested in, but for now, with all the formalities out of the way, let's get out on track. Making our way down to the first corner here at Watkins Glen, our first brake marker is on the left side, just ahead of the 200 board, where the Armco barrier drops a level. As we reach this, we're going to brake, and a little further ahead, just as we go past the 100 board, we're going to turn into the corner. Just as we hit the curb on the near side, we're going to get back on the power. It's important to get on the power as early as possible here, as the next section is all flat out. And as you can see, we want to cut a big chunk out of this first curb, as this will help us use all the space on the left for the exit, where again you can see our left wheels way over the curb, but as long as our right wheels keep hold of that red and yellow curb, we will avoid a track limit penalty. We'll go flat out through this S, up the hill, clipping the curbs as we go, and up to the next corner. And we're going to brake just as we pass the 300 board on the left here. And just before we reach the marshal box, we're going to turn in. The aim here is to turn in early to lessen the angle and cut across these curbs. Just a quick sensitivity warning, if you are a fan of keeping to track limits, it may be a good idea to turn away now. As we approach the first part of this bus stop, shift down to 4th gear. We're aiming to get our right wheels in the dirt on the inside of this first curb. Then as soon as we have left the curb, turn back to the left to cut as much of the second curb as possible. We'll need to get extra brave up against this first barrier, risking our wing mirror, then cutting all of this curb, both wheels all the way over the yellow line, as you can see, keeping a shallow angle through this entire section, making sure we stick to the left. And as we leave this curb, we're going to get back on the power, where for this curb we actually keep our right wheels on the track before straight lining it to the last part of the bus stop, our right wheels all the way in the grass and our left wheels holding onto that yellow and red curb. Keep the car to the middle of the track, and as we reach the curb on the right, we're going to brake. We're continuously turning right throughout this whole section, shifting down to 3rd gear for that extra rotation, and as we pass the escape road on the right, we'll shift back up to 4th gear and get back on the power. Allow the car to drift across to the left, then bring it back to the right side of the track, where our next braking marker is just as we reach the 200 board, and then a little bit further along, just as we pass the drain on the right side, we're going to turn into the next corner, shifting down to 2nd gear. Once the centre of our car has gone past the end of that catch fence on the right, we'll shift back up to 3rd gear and get straight back on the power. Our next braking marker is when we are 2 car lengths ahead of the 100 board on the left, or if you prefer, just as the 100 board on the right side hits the edge of your screen, we can brake, starting to turn in as we pass the Gran Turismo board on the left, shifting down to second gear, and we can follow these tyre marks as a good line through this corner. Then once the marshal box in the distance goes past the centre of your car, shift back up to third gear and get on the power, using the extra bit of track on the exit to make our way up to the next corner. As we completely pass the 200 board and we are halfway between the 200 and the 100 board, we're going to hit the brakes, turning into the corner as we pass the 100 board, shifting down to second gear. As we approach the curb on the inside, we're going to shift back up to third gear and get on the power, using the space on the left as we exit. Bring the car across to the right side for our next braking marker, where just before we reach the 100 board, we're going to brake, shift down to second gear and turn in at the same time. Shifting down to first briefly, and then once the marshal's box ahead of us gets to the centre of our car, we'll short shift up to third gear and get back on the power, again using as much space as we can on the exit. Just as we approach the 100 board, we're going to turn in, then lift, getting back on the power as we approach the curb on the near side. Turning in early here allows us to take more speed through and helps us get the car into position for the last corner, where we can bring the car back across to the left side of the track. And our last braking marker is just before we reach the section of barrier where it turns back to Armco, then turning in as the sign on the left hits the edge of our screen. Again, we want to take an early entry into this corner to help us get back on the power as soon as we can. And as the last speaker pole ahead of us hits the centre of our car, we can get back on the power, being brave up against the wall, keep the car to the left side to finish a lap of Watkins Glen in 1 minute 42.784. I'm going to leave you in peace to enjoy the commentary-free replays of the lap from this insanely fast driver. We'll start with the bumper cam and end with the bonnet cam. Don't forget there are chapter markers in the description for you to skip around to the section that you're interested in. I'll see you back here after the replays. And there we are, that is this week's lap guide for Daily Race C completed. Let me know in the comments if this has helped you out, and feel free to drop by during the week to let me know how you're getting on. Have fun and race well. It would be great if you could consider subscribing to the channel so you never miss another lap guide. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.